Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, what was the last discussion?
Context API.
Context API. Did you get a chance to practice context API?
No, not at all.
No, I have done it so many times.
Not much actually. I had office today, so I just came back.
Okay, okay.
What are you?
Anyone else?
Only
Out
nine
of
was.
Practice, but earlier I.
oh, 30 people
Earlier,
at
Sanjay, I
least.
have practiced it. I have
Okay,
done some API call on top of context and stored some user details and session details in that context.
good, good.
And that I'm using everywhere in my all the components. That session ID is common.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay.
কি নাম এটা আজকে কত তারিখ? আমাদের আজকে তারিখ
Aji dos dos.
Okay, then the next thing that we will be discussing is, yeah, if context API is clear, the next topic that we are going to discuss is uh,
Context হয়েছে কি?
there is something called redux flux,
এটা আমি
but
জানি না।
flux is kind of outdated and nobody is using React Flux nowadays. It is outdated in the market. We have one better library called Redux. We'll discuss Redux. Yeah. If we try to understand what is Redux, yes, Redux is a state management library. This Redux is also used to get rid of props drilling. See, we have the problem. Problem is one. The problem is props drilling. When we have props drilling problem, how can we solve that? So one answer we got yesterday, that is context API. Through context API, we can pass the data from one component to another component, even if they are not immediate parent child. But context API, we cannot use all the places. Context API, we can use only for limited use cases. If the state is not changing frequently, if we have only limited data. So for those all use cases, using context API is okay. Or if we want to have some configuration data, that configuration data will be used by different components, we can use context API. What if the state changes very frequently and that state data is being used by multiple components? Context API is not the best option there. So there we go with Redux. Okay, so let's understand what is Redux and how it works. First of all, let's understand what is Redux and how it works. What is the need of Redux? First of all, we will understand. The first thing is the problem with props drilling. If we have component A, inside component A, we have component B, B has C, C has D, D has E. We know what is the problem, right? To avoid that, what Redux says, okay, this is Redux, this is Redux, and this is your React application. This is our React application. This is React application, and this is Redux. React application and Redux are two different things. This is React application. This is Redux. In React, we will have a lot of components. We will have a lot of components. These all are components in our React application. We can have component inside component also. Now, what Redux says, don't manage the data in your React application, let me maintain the data for you. So Redux will maintain the data for us now. Now the data will be maintained in Redux. The data will be maintained in Redux. When we don't maintain the data in React and we maintain the data in Redux, what is the benefit? The benefit is whoever wants the data, they can directly go and get the data from Redux. Any component, let it be component A, B, or the child component or the parent component or whoever it is, they can directly go and talk to a data. They can directly fetch the data that is stored in Redux. Is it clear why Redux should be used? What
Yes.
is the limitation and what limitation this Redux gets rid of? Yeah. Okay, what is Redux? Redux is a state management library. State management library means you can say data management library. The data of your application, the data of your component, instead of storing it in a component, better we store it in Redux so that whenever I need, I will go and get the data. Whenever somebody else needs, they will go and get the data. Redux stores the state of our application. With Redux, the state is maintained outside the React component, not in a particular component. Yes, if component wants to update the state, it communicates with state container. The state container updates the state. Fine, it's okay. The first version of Redux was introduced in the market in the year of 2015. Redux 1.0 was launched in August 2015. Okay. The library that we are going to use, its name is React Redux. React Redux
Due to
is the
library.
library that provides binding to use React and Redux together in one application. So far, we have one project. In our project, we have used a library. The library name is React. We have never used Redux. If my React application has to talk to Redux, we need another library. The library name is React Redux. In a typical Redux application, there will be just a single store with a single root reduction, with a single root reducing function. Yeah, what is this? If you are not clear, it is okay. Fine. Maybe these 2 3 points I'll talk later. Let's understand what all components we will see inside a Redux. Whenever we talk about Redux, Redux will have few components inside it. Mainly, there will be three core concepts inside Redux. One is store, one is action, one is reducer. What is store? Yes. So if we talk about Redux, Redux has three components: component 1, component 2, component 3. What are these three components? Three components are store, action, and reducer. These are the three main concepts we will see inside Redux. What is store? Store is the place where we maintain the data. Store holds the data of our application. So if you want to store some data, a equal to 10, that data will be stored in store. This is called store. What is action? Action describes the changes in the state of the application. What happened? Suppose there is a variable called a equal to 5. We want to change this value from 5 to 6. Then the action that we are going to perform is increment. Suppose a value is 5, we want to decrease it by 1. The action that we are going to perform is decrement. So that is nothing but action. What is a reducer? This reducer ties the store and actions together. This reducer acts a intermediator in between store and action. I will show you one image. Maybe that image will make more sense to you. So let me share my screen and show you one image. React Redux. Yes, please understand how React Redux looks like. This is how typical React Redux looks like. Okay. So this is our React application. This is our React application. Should we maintain our data inside React component? Yes or no?
No,
No.
Why no?
because everyone should pick it up without, I mean, disturbing other components. So easy way to pick up for data for whole application.
Yeah, that's true. Then now where we will maintain the data?
Inside Redux.
Yeah,
Yes.
in Redux. In Redux, again, how many components we have?
Three.
Mainly, we have three
Three.
components: action, reducer, store. If you look at here, there are four boxes: view, action, reducer, store. What is view? View is nothing but our HTML. View is nothing but our page
Hmm.
where we see list of employees.
Hmm.
If we talk about employee CRUD, what all things we see? We see one employee table.
Hmm.
In employee table, we see view button, delete button. Then next to employee table, we see a form. In that form, we type employee ID, employee name, salary. We click on submit button. When we submit the button, add button, we push another object to the existing array, right?
Yes.
So view is nothing but our React page. So the data will not be maintained in React, rather the data will be maintained in Redux. When we say the data will be maintained in Redux, Redux again has three components: action, reducer, store. The data will be maintained in store component, where the data will be actually placed in store.
Store.
So where the data will be maintained in Redux?
Store.
HTML.
Inside store.
Store. Store will have one array with three employees. Just assume, suppose store has one array with three employees. Then from store, data will come to view, and view will show three employees in a table. In Redux store, if we have employees equal to one array with three objects, this view will show a table with three rows, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, now let's say in my store, I have one array with three objects. I want to add another object into that array. If React application wants to insert one more object to the array, or want to delete one object from the array, or want to do any manipulation with the data, directly view cannot talk to store. View cannot directly modify store data. View can only read the store data, but view cannot go and modify the store data. If view cannot modify the store data, then what view will do? View will dispatch one action. What view will do?
You will dispatch an action.
It
You
will
will
View will
dispatch an
dispatch.
dispatch
action.
an action.
Yeah.
What is action? View will dispatch an action.
Name increment,
Uh,
let's say.
huh. The action can be, uh, the action can be, give me a second. The action can be add employee. The action can be delete employee. The action can be edit employee, can be anything. Huh? Okay, understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So when view dispatches one action, when view is dispatching one action, that action will go to a reducer. The action will go to a reducer. What is reducer? A reducer is nothing but a JavaScript function. A reducer is nothing but a JavaScript function which will take the action information, which will take the state information, and will go and update the store. So action will inform reducer what to do. Add a new employee. Then reducer will go and push one more object into the array. If action says delete employee, reducer will go and delete one data from the array. And every time the store gets updated, every time the store gets updated, the view will get a notification because it is subscribing. This workflow is clear.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you one more time. Please understand this time. We have UI. What do you mean by UI?
View.
Our HTML code.
Our page, React
Yeah.
application page, right? If we talk about employee CRUD, in employee list table, if we see 3 rows, it means in the state there are 3 employee objects, right? State defines the UI, means in my UI how many records will be there, it is decided by state, right? If I have to add another employee, what UI will do?
I
UI
need to
will trigger,
dispatch an action.
UI will dispatch action. That action will be sent to whom?
Reducer.
Reducer. Reducer will update what?
Update
Store.
store state of the entire application store.
Yeah, store. Store is nothing but it's a house or it's a place where we
Data
will
house.
have state, right? So when the
Yes.
state gets updated, the UI will be refreshed again. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I will show you one GIF now. This is a video. Please understand.
Oh, great.
First of all, in UI, deposit $10, withdraw $10. Suppose I have zero balance. What is the balance I have in my account? I have $0 balance. I will trigger deposit $10. So what it will do? It will dispatch one action, right?
Action. Yeah.
There are 2 buttons, deposit 10, withdraw 10. If I click on deposit 10 rupees, then it will trigger one action, right?
Action.
That
Yes.
action will go to whom?
Action will go to a reducer.
Reducer. Action will go to whom?
Reducer.
Reducer.
Reducer. What that reducer will do? If you see here, it says R. There can be 3 reducer, but ours is deposit reducer. So it will go to deposit reducer. What reducer will do?
Reducer will take it and update it to the store.
Reducer will update the state. Once state is updated, UI will be refreshed. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is this clear at a high level?
So
Yes,
reducer
sir.
updates the state.
Yes.
Take the state and update the store. बोल
Okay. If it is clear, now let's continue.
State तो नहीं लो जाएगा नहीं.
This is the
Sir,
basic work. Uh-huh.
what is the another one, sir? Inside one another arrow is there, no, sir. State reverse arrow. State to reducer.
State to reducer.
Oh, ये तो.
Normal arrow is coming like state to UI, but another arrow coming state to reducer, no, sir.
Something else is also happening.
Okay. Okay. So we have $0, right? Initially one reducer will be called. the reducer will be called with zero and the page will be loaded with $0. Maybe that one they are talking about.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Don't get confused much. Just understand this flow. UI dispatches action, action goes to reducer, reducer updates the store, store contains the state, store and state we can say one component
जसं
only.
इनिशियल व्हॅल्यू तर तिथं
Reducer updates store, when store is updated, UI gets refreshed again. Is it clear?
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Huh.
Sir, by using API call and post method or patch method, we can update the data and we can get it by Axios. What is the advantage this Redux giving, sir?
If you get the data from Axios, where are you storing? After getting the data from backend, anyway, we have to get the data from backend. Once
Yes,
we
sir.
get the data from backend using Axios or fetch method, where are you storing? Are you storing in your components state variable? Or where are
Uh,
you storing? Now, where
Normal
are we
variable.
storing?
Normal variable.
Normal component variable, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
When
sir.
we store it in normal component variable, what is the limitation? What is the problem?
that only that
The
component
problem is when we want to send that data to another component. That is the
Uh,
problem, right?
yes, sir.
To overcome that, we use Redux. We get the data from backend. Once we get the data from backend, we should not store in our component, rather we should store it in Redux. Once we store something in Redux, any component can go and fetch the data from there.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Understand?
Yes, sir. Understand, sir.
Okay. Anyway, we have to fetch the data from database. That is must.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Now, if we go through these theories, it will make more sense. In a typical Redux application, there is just a single store with a single root reducing function. There will be a single store with one root reducer function. In a typical Redux application, there will be a single uh, single s- store and root reducer. There will be one reducer, there will be one store. As our application grows, we split the root reducer into smaller reducers independently operating on different parts of the state tree. Ideally, when we create one Redux application, we will have one store and one reducer. But if our application keeps growing, we can have multiple reducers also. Fine, fine. So the workflow is view will trigger action. The action will go to reducer. The reducer will update the store, store or state. Once the store is updated, view will be refreshed again. Is it clear? Yeah. If we think about a shopping mall, we are going to Chroma store to purchase a TV or a mobile. What is store? What is store? Chroma is store, right?
Yeah, which
We go
contains
to we go to Central to buy some clothes. So Central is store. Chroma is store where we have lot of TVs, lot of mobiles. And what is the action? Why are you going there? Why did you visit there?
Billing.
Sorry?
Billing.
Billing. To purchase something, right?
Yes, billing or purchase.
To purchase something. That is the action, right? What is reducer? When you go, there will be people who will assist you what to do, how to do, right? So they will help you. Okay, sir, you do this. There will be salesperson. They will help you understand what is this product, how to purchase it. So we can consider that person as reducer. Okay, fine. Now we'll try with one example. Let's try with one example. Hmm. If somebody will ask you what is context API and what is Redux, where to use context API, where to use Redux, the answer is context API is useful and ideal for small applications where state changes are minimal. State is not very frequently changing, and small application we can use context API. This Redux is perfect for large applications where there are high frequency of state updates. And Redux also gives a more structural and advanced way of doing state management. Okay, fine.
Sir, is there any limit that how much volume of data it can store?
No, no, there is no limit, I think.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll understand one example, one Redux example. I will create a simple Redux example. I'll create a simple Redux example. Before I create a Redux example, I will show you one existing example. First of all, understand one existing example. After you understand, maybe we will create our own project. But let me show you one existing example so that at least you will get to know how store looks like, how reducer looks like. Redux example. Okay, I'll show you. Uh, Redux counter example. Redux counter example, I'll show you. Please understand this. Where is demo? I don't want the code. Yeah. So let's understand. If we have to create one increment program, using Redux, what all things we have to do? Please remember, guys, nobody will do a increment program using Redux. Increment is not the best use case to use Redux. To understand the Redux concepts, this is the smallest example I can use. See, we have current value 0. When I click here, it becomes 1, it becomes 2, it becomes 3. When I click here, it becomes 2. So here, can you tell me which one is state variable? Count is state variable, right?
Count.
Yeah.
Count is state variable. And how many actions are there?
Two, increment,
So
decrement.
increment and
Two actions, plus or minus.
There are two actions, increment and decrement. There are two actions, increment and decrement. To implement this functionality, what all things are done? Let me show you. Okay. Where is the code? Files. Here we have the code. Okay. Now, app store.js. This is our store. This is our store. This is our store. In store, to create a store, we have to use configure store method. We have to use configure store method, and that configure store method will call a reducer and will give you a reducer. It will give you a counter value to you. This is how store looks like. If you write 2 3 lines of code, you are done with creating a store. That's all. A store is ready for you. Then we have counter.js. In counter.js, in counter.js, we have different actions. We have we are using dispatch. We are having methods like increment amount, dispatch decrement, dispatch increment. We are dispatching 2 actions. Then then we have a reducer. We have a reducer. Let me look for the reducer. Yeah, we have reducers.
Create slice.
We have increment reducer.
Programming code,
We have decrement reducer. We have increment by amount reducer. We have 3 reducers. This reducer takes a state data and increments the state data by 1. This is another reducer. It takes state data, it reduces the state data by 1. This is all about reducer. Every reducer is nothing but a function which will take a state and action information, will update the state data. Yeah. Any question so far? Or I know this topic is going over the head. Is it going over the head, or are we good so far? Maybe once we create 1 or 2 examples, we will be more clear. But are we good so far? Those who are those who are new to Redux, maybe it is very difficult for them, right? Fine. Let's create our own increment example. Let's do it. Once we do it, then only we will learn. I will show you the step-by-step process to create an increment program. Okay. 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 We'll create one increment program. To create one increment program, what I will do? Yes. Redux counter. I already have this project. I think whether I'll explain you the existing project or you want me to create a new project and do it. What do you think, guys?
Better to create projects, sir.
Uh-huh. Better to create a
Create new project. New project.
okay. I'll delete. I'll create a new project. Please understand. But the way you are expecting me to create a new project for each and every example, you should also do that. Tomorrow I'll ask you to share your screen and I will expect you to have the same project. Fine.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Yeah. Now we'll create a new project. We'll create a new project. To create a new project, we can say create React app, counter application, template, Redux. If we run this command, it will create one React project. Create React app, counter app, or I can say Redux, counter, Redux, counter, example. Redux counter example. Redux
Yeah, ready?
counter demo. React create React app, Redux counter
Oh,
demo, template, Redux.
So
Okay.
NPX is missing.
Yeah, I'll use npx. npx
Sir, what is template redux?
Yeah.
template Redux. When we add Redux related files will be automatically generated for us. We don't have to do much. Yeah. Okay to proceed? Yes, I'm okay to proceed.
Redux counter demo, so that would be our project name, right?
Our project name, huh? It can be anything. Yeah. So it is creating a new project with name Redux counter demo.
data layer.
Dispatches and action calls reduce function
Once it is
Data
created, I'll open that project.
selecting the personal
I'll
store
open that project. I'll go here and what is the project name? Redux counter demo. You see, this is our project name. So let me, after the project is
store
created,
appended to
I'll
the
open
build
that.
object when
Let's wait for
all
some time.
component can access the store all component create a state variable হ্যাঁ তোমার যেগুলো করতাম সেটা কি ছিল লোকাল একটা কম্পোনেন্ট ছিল অফ করলে যেটা পাস ডাউন ফাইল মতো প্যারেন্ট থেকে চাইল্ডের মধ্যে ছিল মাত্র সো স্টোরিজ একটু কমিয়ে দেওয়ার সাউন্ড লাভ নেই
So like we have created this React project, right? So if suppose we want to use Redux since starting, so we have to create like this, then we can develop our code there, right?
Actually, we can do it in our existing project also,
Oh,
but
okay.
if we do in our existing project, it will be very much confusing. First of all, Redux itself has a lot of things, so I don't want to implement in our existing project. Let's create a new project for Redux at least.
Yeah, sure.
You will see at least 5 to 6 files created, lot of folders we will create, lot of files we will create. People will be confused. Better to create a new project. But
Sir,
what I was, huh?
while designing the project, we want to select this is a Redux project or React project. We can go that, otherwise we can go with React, then we'll implement the Redux. But what is the best way?
See, if you have a React project, let's say you started a React project, you added a lot of components,
So
you
everything
worked
in
on
one
that
place
project
doing
for
doing
1 year.
vertical
After
separation
1 year, you
also
felt
you store
Redux
have
is
slides,
required. You
okay?
can still go and
Start
add Redux
users
library into your
the
existing
user
React
slide
project.
authentication side
But
plus
whenever we
system
start a
system
project, it will be
system is not directly
already
monitored so
decided that we will be using
authentication
Redux in
and
our project or not.
everything dispatch
And
command.
most of the React projects, around 90% of React projects, they will be using Redux to manage the state. So I think in most of the times we will decide to use Redux while creating the project itself.
Redux is a separate library as like React or included in React.
It is not included in React, right? It's completely a different library.
React itself a library.
It's a different library.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
কিছু বোঝে না জানো তো পুরো সেশনটা এই সন্দেহে তাহলে আমি npm ইনস্টল করছি কেন
But I already had one example, right? I was thinking to explain only that project. Yeah, it's okay. We'll learn from the beginning.
তো ক্লাস বাটনে ক্লিক করলে এটা ডিসপ্যাচ এন্ড অ্যাকশন ভালো কথা বুঝতে পেরেছো
This is the problem.
revision function
Creating the project and all takes time.
revision function আপডেট দ্য
Fine.
স্লাইস অফ দ্য স্টোরি ঠিক আছে
We'll wait for 2 minutes. I think it's done, almost done.
If I click the plus button, it will
Yes, sir.
dispatch action followed by
For
lookup.
example, one component is updating the Redux store, so other component will expect that updated values by the in the form of lookup, or it will be
It's
available
outside the store.
that updated values in other components.
And select selecting
Other
portion of
component
the
will
store,
get a
slice
notification
of the
that
store.
there is a change in
Selecting
this
the
data.
portion of the
So other
store.
component
Let me
automatically will
select
get it.
using that.
Uh,
Then update my cart.
Click dispatch action. যখন ক্লিক করলাম ক্লিক করলে
Kind of
Click on the
dispatch
automatic.
action
dispatch and
So
action.
anyone who is
The
subscribing
user
to that
calls the
state
user
will get
update
updated
size
data
of the
every
store
time there is a
size
change.
of the
সিলেকশন
store
কি করলো আপডেট
and
দ্য
we
কার্ড
now reading the store we need to do that selecting the portion of the store.
সিলেক্টরটা কি হুক অ্যাট দ্য এন্ড অফ দ্য
ওটা hook. Use selector is the hook.
সিলেক্টর কার্ড কম্পোনেন্ট ইজ সাবস্ক্রাইবিং দ্য স্টোর তারপরে কি করেছিল Redux main job to manage the store, store.js থেকে configure software নিয়ে আসে এটা RDK RDK কি বলেছিল বলতো RDK Redux JS React RDK কি বলেছিল বলতো React JS Redux toolkit থেকে আসে
Okay. This is the problem. This takes time to create project.
আচ্ছা এটা প্রোভাইডার লাগে আমাদের অ্যাপ্লিকেশনের মধ্যে ফর অ্যাপ্লিকেশন ইউজ প্রোভাইড দ্য অ্যাপ্লিকেশন React component will provide the stuff. So React application will be the provider. Whole application में वो provider दे दिया. वो RAM whole application provider. और इनका store to settle on there. This is the most important. और इनका modules dot important. Props. এখানে এই বডিটা দাঁড়িয়েছে আমাদের কত কিছু করতে এটা প্রপস ছিল নাকি
কোনটা এটা কি প্রপস না এটা এই কনসেপ্টটা প্রপস বাট দিস ইজ প্রোভাইডারের মধ্যে স্টোর হচ্ছে তোমার অলরেডি ওইভাবেই করতে হয় মানে ওটা হচ্ছে এক্সিস্টিং ওইভাবেই মানে ওটাই সিনট্যাক্স আর এই স্টোরটা হচ্ছে যে স্টোরটা অক্ষয়
স্টোর ওয়ান খুঁজলে সেই স্টোর ওয়ান
স্টোর ওয়ান বা স্টোর আমরা যেমন কিছু কিছু স্টোরে বিভিন্ন নাম দিচ্ছি একটা স্টোরে স্টোর ডট ডেজ নাম দিচ্ছি
কার্ড স্লাইস স্লাইস বানালো
ক্রিয়েট স্লাইস
কার্ড স্লাইস
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা কার্ড স্লাইস একটা ক্লাস বানিয়েছি
ফাংশন কার্ড স্লাইস ইকুয়াল টু ক্রিয়েট স্লাইস নেম কার্ড ইনিশিয়াল স্টেটস ছিল আইটেমস দিয়ে ওর মধ্যে আবার রিডিউস হার্স লিখেছিল কিছু আইটেম দিয়ে মডিফাই স্টেট করেছিল অ্যাড আইটেম যখন করলো তখন ইনিশিয়াল স্টেটে স্টেটার আইটেমস ক্লিয়ার কাট করলে আইটেম জিরো করলো রিমুভ আইটেম করলে পপ করলো export card add item export equal
Do you think there is some problem? What happened?
whatever you know এখন দেখো আমার পুরো নয় সুন্দর অ্যাঙ্গুলার আমাকে করে
It's failed, right?
আমরা ভালো করে দিয়েছি export
Redux counter demo. I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where is that folder? Redux. Deleted, right? Good.
Yes.
অপশন করে থেকে নামিয়ে নিতে পারি একবার এডিশন না বলে হয়
Let's try to create it once again. I don't see any valid reason why it got cancelled. Let me give one more try.
ও টেস্ট কেসে আর নোট দেখলাম না লেভেলের নোট দেখলাম টেস্ট কেসটাকে আর টেস্ট কেসে এর থেকে বাইরে কোনো প্রশ্ন আসবে না যদি টেস্ট কেসটা বলতে পারে মানে এতটাও যেটা করেছি না লোকে এতটাও করে ওঠে না টেস্ট কেসটা একটু এক্সটেন্সিভলি টেস্ট কেসটা করিয়েছিল না
Oh, okay. And the name is Counter App.
বোর্ড হয়ে যাচ্ছে আমি হাতে ধরি না করলে অবশ্যই বুঝতে পারবো না
আমরা বলেছি বলে আমি অক্ষয় সাইনটা বুঝতে পেরেছি তুমি আমার অক্ষয় সাইন বুঝতে পারবো ইজিলি এটাও বুঝতে পারবো কিন্তু এগুলো যারা নতুন ক্লাসে করছে
অবশ্যই 3 ঘন্টা করে বুঝছিল একটাই টপিক
না ও কালকেও রিডাক্সই থাকবে
আজকে রিজাল্ট পড়ানো অফিসার এ তো পড়াবে দুদিন পড়াবে এক্সাম্পল দেখা যাবে
Okay, by the time it By the time it downloads and creates a project, let me show you one more example. This is to do application. Here we should be able to add to do, delete to do, toggle to do. Let's understand this existing example first. Yeah, it looks like that project is also done. The counter app is also done. So we can directly do that. Counter app is done. I'll rename it. Redux counter application. Redux counter application. So what we will do here, let's open this project in Visual Studio Code first of all. So this is a project, fresh project. Here we will implement counter example. Go to source. So if you see in our package.json, package log.json, in package.json, package log.json, already React Redux library is installed. Redux toolkit is installed. These are the things we need. These are the things we need for Redux examples. When we added this template Redux, right? It added all the libraries required in a Redux project, React Redux project. If you go and see in our old project, you will not find this. So what did it do? It added or it installed all the required libraries
এগুলো ডেভ ডিপেন্ডেন্সির মধ্যে আছে
for
কেন?
a Redux application.
রিজার্ভ
Now,
তো মানে প্রোডাকশন লাগবে নাকি?
once the project is created,
স্যার,
second thing,
ওয়ান থিং, those things are why in the dev dependency, like it will be needed in production also, right? Or not like that?
no, no. Package dot. This is there in dependency.
Oh, dependencies. It is under dependencies,
Dependencies.
not dev dependencies. Okay, okay,
No.
okay. So once the project will be deployed, there also it will be outside, not dev dependencies.
Now,
Okay.
see when you don't use template Redux, you have to install these two libraries. Please remember, when you don't use template Redux, you can install these two libraries. One is Redux.js toolkit, Redux.js toolkit, React Redux, Redux. These are the three things. Install Redux and React Redux. So npm install Redux, React Redux. One is Redux. The other one is React Redux. The third one is Redux.js toolkit. These are the libraries we can manually also install. Go and see what is there with you, what is not there with you. If something is not there, we can install. So just run this command. I think Redux.js toolkit is already there. We don't have to do it. Redux is not there. React Redux is there. So let me install Redux, npm install Redux. Other two things are already there. Once that is done, once step 2 is done, remember, if you are doing template Redux, this step is not required. But if you are not using template Redux, second point is required. If you do template Redux and do second point, there is no harm. So let's keep it here. Then once our libraries are installed, We will create folders and files for our axon, reducer, store, and components. Now what I will do inside, you see, oh, you can see when we use template Redux, already lot of files are created. One is counter.js. You see counter.js, counter module CSS, counter API.js, counter slice.js. You see, lot of files are created for you. You have to do nothing much. You just have to add your logic.
Okay.
That's all. And let me start it. npm start. I should have not selected template Redux. We should have created all these files manually, but it's okay.
Manually. Bonomali.
Any errors? Oh, starting. You see, so this is
Automatic
very
filter है.
intelligent. When you say template Redux, it gives you one ready-made program. You have to do nothing. So we will learn nothing much here. We have to do nothing. This example is for without template Redux. If you don't have template Redux, you have to follow all these steps. If you add template Redux, you get everything out of the box. Add amount. Okay, so let's not use this. If we use this, it gives us everything. We can create one more. Give me some time. Huh? If we open one existing example, we will not get a chance to learn. Fine. Let's create one more project. npx create react app redux counter demo. It's a project.
Oh my god. ক্যানভা ছেড়ে বলে দেবে আমরা এখন 1199 টাকা করে নেবো 1 বছরে আর ওরকম আর করবো না. Stop.
हेलो गाइस, जितने भी लोग हो आप सच बताना कि अभी तक मैंने आप लोगों को कितनी बार एक्सेस दिया है. जब भी एक्सेस मेरे पास आता है ना तब भी मैं आप लोगों को एक्सेस देता हूँ क्योंकि मुझे ट्रस्ट बना के रखना है. और आप लोगों को कैसे बात कर रहे हो? आप सबको पता है कि कैनवा का मेरी खुद की कंपनी नहीं है. मुझे जैसे रिस्पॉन्स आता है मैं वैसे ही आपको एक्सेस देता हूँ, हर किसी से ईमेल लेके दिया हूँ, हर किसी का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व किया हूँ, फिर भी आप मेरे को
Yeah,
गलत एग्जाम
you
लगा रहे
can
हो।
see one
इसका थोड़ा
fresh
ध्यान
React
रखना चाहिए,
project is
आपको ये
created.
बताएगा
The
मेरे
name
पास
is
कोई भी आप बोलेंगे मेरे
Redox
को
Counter
मुझे
Demo.
मिल जाएगा, मैं आपको दे दूंगा, बट आप थोड़ा सा धीरे
This
धीरे
Redux Counter
करके
Demo is a fresh project. It's a React project. We don't have Redux at all.
डोंट वरी, कोई भी ये ना ये
In
मत
this,
करो,
we will
फोन
implement
मत करो,
everything our own.
बस सपोर्ट करो।
Now, if you go to package.json and check package.json and check, you will see nothing. You will see nothing. Redux is not there. We will try to install everything from the scratch. For learning purpose, the first example you do it from next time onwards, maybe we can use template. Next, to make Redux work, we need to install these libraries. npm install Redux is one library, Redux.js toolkit, React Redux. So add these libraries.
যখন বললো তখন এই টুলকিটের কথাটা বলেনি, এখন টুলকিটের কথাটা বলছে। অ্যাকচুয়ালি এই দুখানা লাইব্রেরিকে ইম্পোর্ট করতে হবে,
ও
ইনস্টল
ভুলে
করতে হবে।
গেছে তাই।
দুটো
Once the libraries are added, once the libraries are added, next let's create folders and files for action, reducer, store, components. Let me create a folder here. Inside src, I'll create a folder. I will call the folder name is Redux. Redux. Inside Redux, or let me change it to store. Store is a file folder. Then inside store, I'll create a file store store.js. Then inside src, we will create a folder actions. Inside actions, actions.js. Then we will create another folder reducers. Inside reducers, reducers.js. Then at the end, we will have a folder called components. Components. Inside these components, we will have a component counter.js. Please understand what did we do. We created store.js. We created reducers.js. We created components counter.js. And this is a component. This is a component. Actions.js. Is it clear? What did we do?
Yes, sir.
Next. Next, we will create a store. How to create a store? What is store in Redux? Store is the place where we will maintain the data. So create a store. To create a store, what we do? To create a store, what we do? To create a store, to create a store, we have to add this piece of code. This is our store file code. In store, what are we doing? I
ওখান
will
থেকে মনে হয়
explain
ভাবতে হবে,
everything.
বুঝলি, ওর
Please
কোনো রেসপন্স
understand.
নেই সেরকম।
First of all,
এক মাস পরে যে জয়েন করানো হচ্ছে
I'm
না,
importing a predefined method
বলে
called
ও এক
configure
সপ্তাহ
store
প্রজেক্ট দেবো বলে বলেছিল,
and
ভিডিও এডিটিং করছে না।
importing configure store. Calling that configure store is a predefined method. We should call configure store method by passing one object.
মেয়েটা মোটামুটি এখন চালিয়ে
That
দিচ্ছে, খারাপ করা
object
না, যেটুকু
will
করে।
have that object will have
ওখানে
reducer,
যাচ্ছি, যখন আজকে গেল, ওখানে যে রিড
and
করলো,
in
এগুলো করে
that
এলো। অর্ডার আনতে গেলে আমাকে ঢুকতে
object
হবে, নাহলে অর্ডার
we
ঢুকবে
will
না।
have how many reducers? Counter
ওরকম
reducer.
লেভেলের কি মুভ দেওয়া ছিল?
So counter reducer is a predefined reducer we have to create in this folder. So in store file, we are using a name called counter reducer.
এই স্টাইলটা
But do
ভালো
we
না,
have
এগুলো
counter
করা।
reducer? We don't have. So let us create that. We will go to reducers.js and we will create a function counter reducer. This is a function and we will export this. Export default counter reducer. That counter reducer, reducers.js is having a function called counter reducer. Using that counter reducer, this store file is creating a store. It's clear or any doubt? Clear? Now we will go to reducers file. In reducers file, what we will do? We will write some logic. What logic we will write? What will be the state value? How to update the state? All those logics will be written in reducer. And how that reducer will look like? The reducer will have a state equal to 1, which is default value, and it will take one action object. Please remember, every reducer will take two information. What are those two information reducer will take?
Previous state and action.
Previous state and action, or initial state and action. Then we are writing some logic inside the reducer. What logic we are writing? We are saying if action dot type, action is one object, this action object will have a type field. If action dot type is increment, return state plus 1. Whatever is the state data, increment 1 and return that. If action dot type is decrement, return state minus 1. If action dot type is not increment, not decrement, return the original state. Do you understand this? Any question?
No, sir.
So store is using counter reducer to create a state variable. What is the state variable name? The state variable name is counter. Reducer is a function which takes previous state and action. Based on the action, it is manipulating the state. Next. Actions. What is actions? This is called action creator. Action creators. We can have a lot of functions. Function, increment. Increment is a function. Increment is a function. If somebody calls increment method, it will return type increment. If somebody will call increment function, it will just return one object. That's all. That object will be useful here, right? Every action object, action is one object. If you see, action is one object which will have type equal to increment or decrement, right? Isn't it? Action is nothing but one object which will have a key type value increment or decrement. It will keep changing, but this is how the action object should be. Yes or no? Yeah. To get this kind of structure, we have two functions. Function increment, export function increment, export function decrement, and it will return decrement. So how many action creators are there in this file?
2.
If somebody will call increment method, what it will return?
Type increment.
One object with type increment. If somebody will call decrement method, what it will return? One object with type decrement. Is it clear what did we do with action file? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So first we created the things. Then we created a store. Then we created action. Okay. We can have a button reset also. We can have a button reset also, which will reset the value. We can have that action reset. Reset is a action creator. If you call this method, it will give you type reset. And in reducer, you can add another case. You can add another case. If it is reset, then return 0. Do you understand? Yeah. Got it? So we have 3 action: increment, decrement, reset. For all of them, we have switch case added in this reducer. Fine. Now actions are ready. Then create reducer. Okay. Okay. Now reducer is also ready for us. After this, we will provide the store. We will provide the store to all the components. To provide the store to all the components, what we will do, first of all, we will import provider from React Redux, and we will import my store from store. Here we have my store, right? We have my store here. Okay, fine. In store, mm, this is my store. Export default. Give me a second. Ah, const my store. I can do like that also. Const my store equal to configure store. Then export default my store. Is it clear? My store is a user defined variable which will have my store information. Now what we will do, we will go to index.js. In index.js, what we will do, we will do 2 things. In index.js, we will do 2 things. What are the 2 things? Provide the store to index.js. First of all, import provider, import provider from React Redux library. Then import my store, import my store from this file. My store is our store. Then wherever we are using app component, wrap that with this provider. When we do this, when we add this, when we add like this, it means Redux is available to app component. If Redux is available to app component,
Yes,
indirectly
hello.
we can say Redux is available to the whole
Yeah,
project.
please tell me.
Any question? What did we do in index.js?
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah,
index.js,
yeah, yeah. Please tell me.
we are importing the store from this file and providing the store to app component. Any question here?
Sir, in case we are implementing Redux in existing project, that case, why we mentioned in index.js? How we
Sorry,
mention in index.js? We need
like
to.
this only, like this only.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
We need full app component. All components should be inside provider, right?
In index.js, you will always have one component that is app. In every React project, it will be the structure. So if you provide the store to app component, indirectly we are providing the store to all the components. The next change is which component wants to fetch the data from store? Counter.js. So this counter.js, what he wants the data from where?
Java, I am not that
Wants
much
the
good,
data
but
from
recently I got a chance to work with Java.
store, right?
So
To fetch the data from store, we will write this
So
piece
I'm
of
not
code.
growing Java, I'm learning Java, but
What
whenever
are
I
we
come
doing?
to
We are
content,
saying
I'm master at it.
const count is equal to use selector. I want the data.
I mean, I can write the program universally, but cannot
Use
write
selector.
for
If
in
I do
Java.
use
If it is
selector,
concept or
we will
something,
get one whole object. That whole object will have state information. This whole thing we will get. From this object, we want only counter information. So when we call use selector, we will get the complete state
I'm
object.
working
From
with
state
Accenture,
object,
client is
we
specific.
need only counter information. Are we clear?
Accenture for the client.
And that counter information we can print here.
Bangalore.
Is it clear? If you go and run it,
Correct.
if you go and run this project, you should be able to see
70% right on the code.
the count information. Count information is
Yes,
0.
31.
Initially, it is 0.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. Please do that. 9 a.m. Sunday, upcoming Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9:45.
So now at least the counter component is reading the data from store
Yeah, sounds
and
good.
printing here. Did you
Yes,
understand?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. 19,
In app
3,
component,
49.
let me
April
delete
19.
everything else
April
and
1990.
just use app component,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One second.
counter component,
Thank you.
counter component. Huh. Do you see counter value? Do you see counter value?
yes, sir.
হ্যাঁ মেল করেছে আমাকে
Any question so far? Now, counter example,
জাভা লিড
counter
চেক করে
example
দাও
is only showing the counter data. What if you want to update the counter value, increment, decrement, and all? What we have to do? We have to add different buttons. We have to add different
সার্ভিস
buttons.
কোম্পানিগুলো না সব চাই
So let's
জাভা
add 3
মাইক্রো
buttons.
সার্ভিসেস
The button
অ্যাঙ্গুলার
names are
একটু এই রাজনীতির মতন
increment, decrement, and reset,
রিয়ার রিডাক্স জানা
right?
না জানলে চলবে রিয়ারটা একটা ওয়েব পেজ
Increment,
বানিয়ে দিতে পারলে
decrement, and reset. So let's add buttons like increment, decrement, and reset. Okay, so we will add buttons like increment, decrement, and reset. This is increment button, increment. We want to use dispatch. If you want to use dispatch, say const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. Use dispatch is a predefined method. If you call this method, you will get dispatch object. Now using this dispatch object, we can dispatch one action. So what are we doing? Please understand. If I'm calling increment method, I want to dispatch one action. What action I will dispatch? You can either call the action creator method. There is a method called increment. The method was there. Actions.js. Are we not exporting? We are exporting. Export function increment, export function decrement. We can call increment function. I don't know why it is not coming.
we need to import na in the center.js counter.js
Yeah, it is automatically it should come. That is what I am expecting.
Okay, okay.
When I type increment, the suggestion should come, or else we can manually also import increment method. Increment, it's not there at all. What happened? Actions. In actions.js, we have increment, decrement, and reset. So I'll say import import increment. It came now. Now I'll call that method, and whatever that method will return me will be one object. That object I will dispatch. This is one way. The other way is the other way is see what we want. We want we want to dispatch one action. We want to dispatch one action. That action looks like this. In this object, we can have type decrement. This is also fine. If you don't want to have a function here, you can directly pass one object. Then let's have another button called reset. This time we can call a function. The function name is reset. Now we have the state data printed here. The state data is printed here. We have three buttons: increment, decrement, reset. Okay. Yeah, Bootstrap is not there in this project. That is why. Did you understand?
Yes, sir. We understand how things are working with this Redux way.
Yeah, tomorrow I will show you with debugging also. I will show you how the flow goes. If we click this button, where it goes, how the reducer is being called, how the reducer is updating the state when state is getting updated, how the data is coming again. All these things I will show you tomorrow. But by following these steps, at least you should be able to complete the counter example. Make sure you complete the Redux counter example by tomorrow so that we have lot of other things to discuss. You have to complete this counter example. If you are not able to complete this counter example, maybe the next example will not make any sense to you. Yeah, that's all for today. Let's connect tomorrow.
Recording of